Okay, I wanted to do this video because a lot of people in my audience don't know who Owen Benjamin is, and there's going to be a debate. I don't like to call it a debate. I like to call it a conversation or an interview, but there's going to be a debate with Owen Benjamin this coming Saturday, January 27th at 4 p.m. Central Standard. That's 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Pacific. And what we're going to be discussing is anarchism versus statism. Now, I'll get into that in a second, but just to let you know a little background about Owen Benjamin, there he is right there. He's a former actor and a stand-up comedian, and he's been heavily censored by social media. Been kicked off YouTube, been kicked off Facebook, been kicked off Patreon, PayPal. So he's a highly censored individual because of his views, his political views, and his socioeconomic views, without getting into too much detail. The reason that he and I are going to have this discussion is because of a post that I put on my Twitter feed in response to this video that he put out. And if you want more detail on that, check out my last video called Too Bizarre to Title. That was uploaded 22 hours ago. So if you want to get up to speed on that, but I wanted to give you a quick rundown, and then he sent a follow-up video to that where he kind of doubled down on some of the concepts that he introduced in this first video right here, which I have a big problem with, because one of the reasons we have a huge problem in our world is because people believe that other people have such an authority over them that they have the right to rule them and to rob them. Now, let me just ask you this. Does anybody on this planet, does any man on this planet have the right, the unalienable right to rule you and rob you without your consent? If somebody does try to dominate over you and control you, which is rulership, and they do try to rob you and they're not called government, have they done wrong? Yes, they've done wrong, because that is the core of what a crime is. When you violate the will of somebody else, when you harm them, when you threaten to harm them, when you damage their property, when you steal their property, you have committed a crime. But somehow you haven't committed a crime if you can call yourself a government. Like Lysander Spooner said, you know, you can call it what you want to, but if taxation without consent is not robbery, then all you got to do is get a band of robbers together, call yourselves government, start stealing from everybody, and all your robberies will be legalized. But that's not real world. That's not being honest with what's going on. That is not a just way to approach this world. So I'm going to be talking to Owen Benjamin about this, but a couple of the highlights in what he said, I put in my initial tweet that got his attention, that made him want to do this debate. In the context of today's government, Owen Benjamin says there's never been less tyranny from government. Think about that statement. In the history of mankind, there's never been less tyranny. Now, are there some freedoms that we have now that we didn't have, say, in 1933 when FDR wrote the Executive Order 6102 banning the possession of gold? Yes, because we can own gold right now, and it's not a criminal act. If you tried to own gold after May 1933, I think it was May 7th, 1933, well, you were considered by the U.S. government to be a criminal if you traded gold or whatever. But they labeled you a criminal back then. So do we have more freedoms now? Yes. Do we have more freedoms than we did in the realm of alcohol than we did in 1920s through 1933 prohibition? Yeah, now you can own alcohol. Do we have more leeway with regard to drugs than we did in the 1980s and the 1990s and the early 2000s, because now it's been kind of legalized and in some places decriminalized? Yes. But overall, is there less tyranny with government when there's more intervention? There's a bigger police force. There's greater surveillance. The welfare and the warfare state have their coffers up to the gills. Is there really less tyranny when you look at it from the macro picture? I don't see how you can make that argument. He also says the government is the only reason libertarians, or people who just want to be free, have the freedom and ability to gripe about the government. The only reason, you think about it, The only reason that you're free to speak in dissent of the government is because of the evil, controlling, manipulative, ruling mob mentality government. That's the only reason you have that freedom. It just seems ludicrous to even consider these statements as serious. The government, Owen Benjamin also says, the government isn't a problem. It's always our own sin. Well, if the government isn't a problem, then why did Kevin Strickland go to jail for 43 years for a triple homicide that he didn't commit? If government isn't a problem, why did Stephen Lara get $87,000 stolen from him by the Nevada Highway Patrol as he was trying to make his way through that state and go to California to take care of his kids? If government isn't a problem, then why is Daniel Shaver not alive today? If government isn't a problem, then why did Johnny Wheatcroft get tortured in front of his kids for no reason? He was completely innocent. If government isn't a problem. And those are just a few of the examples. If government isn't a problem, why did we just give over $100 billion to Ukraine? If government isn't a problem, why did the war machine that we exported to Israel, why is it being used against Gaza right now and obliterating a whole bunch of kids in a country that we don't live in? If government isn't a problem. If government isn't a problem, why is a massive percentage of your paycheck every week and every month and every year taken by people who don't care about you, don't respect you, and will waste your money on things that you don't want it spent on? If government isn't a problem. It doesn't make any sense why anybody would make a statement like that. And that's why I made the video that I did, which he had a problem with, to the point where he wanted to schedule a debate. And here are a couple of his tweets where he wanted to engage in that debate. He says, DM me to schedule when I can come on your show unless you're scared, ? And there's all these little cuts. Invite me on your show and let's discuss it then, P word. DM me for details. I told him I don't have a show, but sure, we can talk about this. Some contend that you're a comedian, implying that you're only joking about this. Did you mean those statements that I quoted, or are you only joking? I don't remember if he responded to this right here. There's a lot of cutting remarks. You know, a lot of people are getting involved, being ugly about the situation. There's a lot of ad hominems. Owen called me a moron, as you can see here, called me the P word. Just all kinds of ad hominems, which have nothing to do with the argument. And a lot of people say when you start using ad hominems, then you automatically tell the world that you don't have an argument. I'm not contending that. I'm sure that Owen has an argument. I'm sure he's a smart guy, but I do want to engage in a discussion with him if he's operating in good faith. If we can both operate in good faith with the objective, and I do have an objective here. I do have an objective in talking with him, if not for Owen, for people in his audience, my audience, and whoever during the course of history might see the video that we produce. And that is this. I want you to be free. I want you to know that nobody has a higher claim over your life and property than you. I want you to know that it is wrong to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anybody any wrong. And the golden rule is still in play. And it's not so much do to others what you would want done to you. It's actually more, in my opinion, don't do to others things that you wouldn't want done to you. If you wouldn't want to be stolen from, if you wouldn't want somebody controlling you, if you don't want somebody violating your will, then you don't do that to others. It seems pretty basic, and that is the fundamental principle of anarchism. There are no rulers, there are no masters. I'm not over you, you're not under me. We're all on an equal plane as far as rights go. Now, how do we exponentiate that and change society for the better? How do we implement anarchist principles of the non-aggression principle, the right to self-defense, the right to self-ownership in society at large? Do we need a group of psychopathic megalomaniacs telling us what to do, where to go, and how much of our income that we can keep in order to have a smooth running, functioning society? Because that's the argument of statism. Statism is basically a belief that coercive intervention in the most appropriate means of is the most appropriate means of resolving political conflicts and bringing about economic and social development. But you need force to do it. You need to threaten people to do it. In order to bring out the change that we need in society, you've got to rob people to accomplish that. And I don't agree with that. You don't conduct the daily affairs of your life like that. You don't force your wife to do things that she doesn't want to do. You don't force your friends to do things that they don't want to do. You don't go to your friend's house and steal money out of his safe because you feel like you have a better way of using his money. You don't do that. That's not how you conduct the affairs of your life. So, of course, the anarchist principles applied to your private life can also be applied to society at large. It just makes sense. And people saying anarchy doesn't work. Show me a place where anarchy works. It works in your life every single day. When you wake up in the morning, you don't go, gosh, I hope somebody can call me and tell me what toothbrush to use or what brand of toothpaste to put on my toothbrush, or what car to drive, or what school my kids should go to, or what job I should have. Nobody's there telling you. You're making your own decisions. And that's what I want. That's the message that I have for everybody. You are in control. You're the master. You're the Lord of your own life. Same with me. I'm the master and Lord of my own life. You can't legitimately tell another man what to do if he's not harming, threatening to harm, or stealing somebody's stuff. You can't tell him what to do. It's not legitimate. So this idea of authority or government is just control. That's all it is. It's an idea. It's a fiction. There's no such thing as a man who has a higher claim over your life and property than you. And if that's true, then there's no such thing as government. There's no such thing as authority. Period. That's the argument. Now, I've seen a lot of anarchist debates where they don't even start with that springboard. When an interviewer is asking an anarchist a question, the first question that the first response that the anarchist should have toward the person asking the question is a question: do you believe that anybody has a higher claim over your life, your time, your laboring energies, your property than you? Answer the question. Because if the answer is no, I don't believe that, then you don't believe in the state. You don't believe in the government. You don't believe in authority. Argument over. Done. Because if you don't believe that, if those aren't the principles under which you operate, then you cannot sit there and argue for the state. You can't argue for the government. You can't argue for authority, because you just told me there is no authority but you. You are your own authority. That doesn't mean you have the right to reach out your hand and harm somebody else, but it does mean that you have the right to order the affairs of your own life, keep 100% of all the income you went out to earn, and just be left alone. That's it. That's the argument. Beginning, middle, and end. That's it.
Hey guys, I want to do a little follow-up on my Libertarian video that's going so viral. And the responses are very aggressive and people are getting intense. Well, I'll give you a more mellow one that won't go as viral because there's no conflict in it. But I'll tell you the actual truth about it, which is the free market likes conflict. The free market doesn't want solutions. Years ago, I was banned from all these platforms, even Twitter.
That is ridiculous. The free market produces solutions. The free market is just a whole bunch of people going, okay, I like that idea, I'm going to go for it. I don't like that idea, I'm not going to go for it. I like that product, I'm going to purchase it. I don't like that product, so I'm not going to purchase it. That's the free market. It's supply and demand. A producer is only going to produce something that has a demand. He's not going to produce something that doesn't have a demand, because if he does that, he's wasting his time and energy, and he's going to drive himself into the poorhouse because nobody wants what he's selling. On the other hand, if he looks at his market, he sees what people likes, and he can produce a high quality product that competes with other people who may be producing similar products, then he can create a good product, enter the marketplace, and now because there's competition, the prices go down, the quality goes up, and the customers are happy. That is the free market. To say this about the free market is, I don't understand. So that's one of the reasons I want to talk to him. Please explain why you said what you said, and why, if you truly believe this, support it.
Me for 5 years. And so me and some friends made a list of everything that was wrong with social media. You know, the porn, the fighting, the nonstop bickering, all that stuff. Like everything that I thought good people would want solved. And we solved them, right? We solved them, and we made our own social media called Libertarian Times. Your mind gets used to a certain thing. Like you see two people having sex and you're like, oh, or you see just a naked woman. Then you see people having sex. Then you see groups of people having sex. Then you see like naughty scenarios. Then you see trans. And you're chasing that dragon, right? That's because that's free market. Where there's a market that should be legal, right, ANCAPs? That's also called hell. All right? If you don't limit these things, people will just keep going after it.
In other words, if you don't force people to stop doing things that you don't like, then people keep going for things that I don't want you to go for. This is a controller, statist, authoritarian mentality. So basically, people who have this mentality want to set themselves up as the authority. They are the arbiters of what should be, and they will limit or regulate or control everything that they don't want in existence. Does the market produce things that are probably not good? Yes. But you know what's more not good than the market producing things that are not good? A whole bunch of people out there controlling you because they think what you're doing isn't good, even though it could be neither here nor there. Hey, I like alcohol. I like to sell alcohol. I like to buy alcohol. I like to drink alcohol. And the U.S. government comes around, with the prohibition movement and says, you know what? We don't want you liking alcohol. We don't want you transporting alcohol. We don't want you drinking alcohol. Prohibition. And prohibition doesn't work because whatever those people want, they're going to get, and they'll go outside of the law to get it. And then it creates a whole new market called the black market who wants to get away from the regulations, and then they start doing bad things so that they can bring alcohol to the market, and up to and including killing people and then forming rival gangs to make sure that they protect their distribution racket. And then the cops get involved in it and they get a cut on it, and all this corruption springs up. So when you add prohibition, so the bad that you thought you were stopping, and it sounded like a good idea at the time because all these guys were out there getting drunk, they were leaving their families and all this stuff. And the prohibition movement, led by, a bunch of do-gooder Christians, wanted to make all these dry counties. And if we can get rid of the alcohol, then we can help all these families that are suffering from, an alcoholic dad. Sounds good. But once they started doing that, a whole slew of crimes just started to metastasize to the point where 13 years later, they had to repeal this Prohibition Act and say, hey, alcohol's legal again. And that's a whole nother set of craziness. 1 minute before the clock struck midnight, when prohibition went into effect, you were absolutely fine. You could buy, you could sell, you could transport alcohol. As soon as the clock struck 12, depending on what your time zone was, you became a criminal. So you could, in America, when the clock struck 12 during prohibition, it was a federal prohibition against alcohol. In New York, you could be a criminal, but in Oklahoma and California, you were still perfectly fine. Nothing wrong. The clock hadn't struck 12 yet, but as soon as the clock strikes 12 in your time zone, you're a criminal. You're doing something that we deem as evil. It's bad. We're the government. We're going to step in and we're going to make everything right by imposing these regulations. And how will you impose those regulations? By force. We're going to force you against your will to not do something we don't want you to do, or not do something we want you to do, or do something we don't want you to do. We're going to impose these regulations. This is what he is arguing for. He is arguing for the prohibition of things that we don't like.
Like if you get people addicted to cocaine at 6 years old, like they're going to be junkies. And you're going to say, oh, well, it's his choice. It's his choice. Yeah, it's also the end of your civilization.
There's nobody arguing for giving cocaine to a 6-year-old. Would you, let me ask you a question. If Owen is watching this, or whoever's watching this, what would you rather have? Dangerous freedom or peaceful slavery? Because it appears to be peaceful slavery, but it's dangerous slavery. It may make you feel comfortable. It may be convenient to have somebody do all the thinking for you and to write policies, and all you got to do is follow orders. But that's the peaceful slavery that people like Samuel Adams said, hey, if you desire wealth greater than liberty, the tranquility of servitude rather than the animating contest of freedom, yeah, it is going to be probably a tougher life to be in a free society, because now you have to think for yourself. You have to defend yourself. You have to make healthy food choices so that you can be healthy. You have to actually take responsibility for yourself. Yeah, that's a way more unappealing scenario than, oh, this guy can do the thinking for me. He can write the policies for me. All I have to do is follow orders. Hey, where do I sign? As long as I can have my Netflix and my potato chips.
And this is not a new phenomenon. You know, look at Zelensky offering a 5'3" Jewish Ukrainian offering the pure freedom of his people, right? The government falls. There's no remedy. People blame government. Oh, because of the American government. No. Look at it on the ground. All the strong males go off to war and get slaughtered. This is over and
because of government. Strong males don't go off to war and get slaughtered when there's no fiat currency to fund this, to put up the credit for the war machine. It doesn't happen. It can't happen. It cannot happen without a dishonest, non-commodity backed fiat currency Ponzi scheme system.
Over and over in history. So then the governments fail, the police department fails, the justice system fails, and all the little gremlin envious fucks that can't compete, they now get power. They can now kill a guy and steal his car. They can now rape a woman and nothing happens. They can now steal and nothing happens. That's why these anarcho-capitalist movements are always...
And this is happening because of a concept called government, that some people have the right to rule, and they can make policies where if you're in San Francisco, hey, you can steal $950 worth of stuff and you're not even going to be prosecuted. That's government. That does not happen in a society where everybody's in tune to what morality is and what right is and what wrong is. Because a community that's an anarchist community or a voluntarist community will not tolerate that kind of thing.
Pushed by weak, short, sinful little gremlins. Because if you have enough strong men, they will order a system where a rapist gets punished, a murderer gets punished. And they'll say, oh, we're being oppressed, free market, but what about me? If you go back to the 1950s...
You know what? The free market, like I said, operates on supply and demand. Do people demand safety? Yes, there's a market for it. Do people demand security? Yes, there's a market for it. Do people demand justice? Yes, there's a market for it. A free market for it. Not a regulated market. There's a free market for it. If you harm somebody or threaten to harm somebody, or you damage somebody's property and refuse to pay for it, if you steal somebody's property, our society says that is wrong. That's immoral and you must be punished. That's just. And that comes out of the free market. If there's a demand for justice, then there's a market for it. I don't understand this vilifying of the free market.
Look at what was illegal. Fornication, sex outside of marriage, illegal. Sodomy, illegal. Race mixing, illegal. Pornography, illegal. Lottery, illegal. Betting on sports, illegal. Racetrack, illegal.
Keeping 100% of what you earned, illegal. Sending men off to war, legal. Mass murder called war, legal.
Okay, it's not even close. Credit cards. You couldn't get a credit card. You still had usury laws. All right? Like, look at how quote-unquote free you are now. Does it look like things are going in the right direction? You know, and seeing some of these NatSoc ANCAPs is pure cognitive dissonance. It's a pure inversion.
Speaking of cognitive dissonance, if you know that it's wrong to steal, to deceive, to control another person against their will, and yet you're for government, then you're trying to hold on to two diametrically opposed, mutually exclusive ideas at the same time. Either criminality is wrong or it's not. You can't say, oh yeah, it's wrong to kill, steal, and cheat, and murder, and rape, but if you're government, it's okay because people have a higher claim over your life and property than you. And, frankly, they know better than you. They know how to direct your life better than you do. I don't understand it. I don't understand this.
It's like, wake up to this stuff, guys. The government is not oppressing. Oh, but I can't sell this and I can't do that. Yeah, interstate laws. Right? Because without the government, you're run by piracy.
Without the piracy of government, you're run by piracy. Unbelievable. The government is piracy. The government is the tyrant they're claiming to protect you from.
You can have problems with the government. Oh, I don't like fiat currency. Here's the irony. Fiat currency is a valid currency in a free market. Right? It's a wonderful business. Think about how much money you make if you own the Federal Reserve, which is a private business. It's like unlimited money. Every single dollar printed, they get a piece of forever. How would you ban fiat currency in an anarcho-capitalist system?
Did you hear what he just did? He's mixing things and he's trying to go back and forth, and it becomes very, very confusing. Fiat just means by edict. This is worth $5 because we say it is. That's fiat currency. But a sound, honest money system is backed by something that has intrinsic value. In 1944, during the Bretton Woods Accord, they pegged the US dollar and created a world, basically reserve currency pegged to $35 an ounce gold. You can't print more money than you have gold to back that currency. That is automatically not fiat. It's not a note of debt. It's not a Federal Reserve note. It's basically a silver or gold certificate where you can take that to a bank and get 1 ounce of gold or 1 ounce of silver or, a percentage of the ounce of gold or silver, depending on the denomination that you have in your hand. That is not fiat. The market we have today is not a free market because of government. It can never be a free market because of fiat currency. Why? Because there's somebody out there, there's an entity called the Federal Reserve that determines the issuance and the value of the currency you have in your pocket, which means they own your time and they own the value of your labor. That's antithetical to the free market, but he's arguing against the free market for the government, saying that if you don't have government, you have piracy, when the government is actual piracy on the largest scale you could possibly imagine.
You can't. It's the best business. Want to know what else is the best business? Why? Oh, but it has to be consent. They'll consent. You get hungry enough, you can get them in a contract. Fiat currency was accepted and used because people didn't want the boom and bust cycles of gold-backed currency. That's a fact.
No, gold-backed currency did not create boom and bust cycles. What created boom and bust cycles were the people creating the boom and bust cycles who created the problem, waited for the fear-based reaction. We don't want the fluctuation of the dollar. We need you to do something. Government, could you please help? And then they stepped in to provide the pre-planned solution. It's the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. They created the problem of boom and bust cycles because they were the financiers. They were the Rothschilds and the JP Morgans and the Standard Oils of the world. They created the problem, waited for the fear-based reaction, and stepped in to provide the solution of the Federal Reserve. Now they own the value and the issuance of your time and laboring energies because all you have in your hand is a fiat currency note. It's a note of debt. And from everything that I'm getting from this video, Owen Benjamin is applauding the power of government.
That's what happened. You can blame other people, but fiat currency creates liquidity that allows you to never feel the pain of a depression or like eventually it's very painful, but for a while it's like taking cocaine so you don't have to sleep.
So is he arguing for fiat currency or against it? He goes, I don't understand why people don't see the hypocrisy and the contradiction in what Owen Benjamin is saying here.
You know, for a while you feel no pain. People chose it. People used it. You use it every day. And why wouldn't that be valid in anarcho-capitalism? Under what authority could you ban fiat currency? The Christian Bible? The Quran? Take a look at what it says about overthrowing your own government. What is your appeal to morality? What is a sin? What is right? What is wrong?
This is so interesting. What is your standard of morality? What is a sin? Well, I'll tell you, everybody knows what a sin is. Everybody knows what evil is. Everybody knows what true criminality is. All you have to do is ask yourself, do I want somebody to steal the things that I worked hard for? The answer is no, unless you're insane or lying. You don't want to be stolen from. Do any one of you watching this right now want somebody to break into your house and punch you in the face? You will answer no, because you're an honest, sane person. Absolutely not. I want to be secure in my own property. I don't want somebody breaking in my door and busting my face so that I lose teeth or experience pain. Nobody wants that. But that's what the government is. That's what the government does. They will violate your will. They will break down your door. They will steal you. They will impound your car. They will steal your cash, like we saw with Stephen Lara. And millions of other Americans, under the excuse of we got to stop the Mexican drug cartel, so we need civil asset forfeiture. And now $70 billion later, after the last 10 or 15 years, who got stolen from? Not the Mexican drug cartels. I mean, we're running guns over there, you know, fast and furious. No, it's Americans. Americans fall under the oppression of government.
If it's just anything goes, the lowest, scummiest, most disgusting men in this world want the government to fail so that they can have a shot at the women.
The lowest, most disgusting men in the world walk around in the marbled halls called government. Get this. Here's how bad it was. I hear Owen Benjamin constantly expressing concern about the rise in, and for 8 years that we know of, for 8 years, there was a guy so high in the halls of government and in the chain of the higher echelon of the presidency. He was a serial, in the words of a federal judge, he was noted as a serial child molester. For 8 years, he was second in line to the president, serving as the Speaker of the House. His name is Dennis Hastert. He went to jail for it for only like 16 months. Look it up. He was a serial child molester, according to the federal judge, and he was second in line to be the president of the United States, who most people consider the leader of the free world. If it goes up that high in the halls of government and a stream can rise no higher than its source, what about all the underlings? What are they involved in the halls of government as they steal from the American tax cattle and write policies that make us less free? Yeah, we need government.
At the gold, at the competition, because all the men are gone. The way they do it is they get you in a pointless war. The men go off and they get...
Who gets you involved in a pointless war? Not anarchists, not libertarians. People who believe that they are government. People who believe that they have a higher claim over your life and property than you. They'll take your sons and daughters and place them in a foreign war. A Council on Foreign Relations war. A bankster war. For what? So that there's a transfer of wealth and power to their pockets from yours. Who is enriched during times of war? And by the way, war is the health of the state. War is not the health of the anarchist. War is not the health of the libertarian. War is not the health of the American. Wealth is extracted from Americans. Health is extracted from Americans. Lives are extracted from the American tax cattle.
The women and the children and the scum are left here. at the homeland. And now they don't have a government with no enforcement, no strong males to pull you over if you're going 130 on methamphetamines or if you're raping a chick.
Yeah, you can't pull anybody over doing 130 unless you're a cop. You can't be self-determined. There's video after video of citizens, I hate to use that word, but people use that word, regular Americans pulling other Americans over because they were doing something stupid, taking their keys out of their car. You can do that. Whole bunch of people get together and go, we ain't tolerating this in our neighborhood. You know, it's that self-determination and responsibility again that people feel like they don't need to have because they have a government telling them what they have to do, and they're out there following orders.
Oh, how dare you? We just figured it out. No, you wouldn't. Show me what time in American history when there was more quote-unquote liberty. Show me what country right now without a government is doing great. Okay?
You know what? That's not even the question. Is the concept of government moral or is it immoral? You have to answer that question. It is immoral. So maybe it would be a good idea to build, because he's concerned about morality. I'm concerned about morality. He's concerned about right and wrong. I'm concerned about right and wrong. But the cognitive dissonance is so cemented in his brain. And I am talking to you, Owen. I mean, this is something I'll tell you to your face. The cognitive dissonance has become so solidified that you can't see yourself out of your own echo chamber. It's almost impossible for you to do that. Because on the one hand, you see the dangers of government, you see that it's immoral, and yet you're still going to go for that immoral thing, saying if we don't have this immorality, we're going to have even greater immorality. It's preposterous. It's like hiring a mass murderer to babysit your kids. What kind of outcome are you going to expect from that? It makes no sense.
This lie is so dark and fundamentally sinister, which is why I am now, I will talk to these libertarians on their podcast. No problem. I'd love to talk to Dave Smith, but that slimy little worm won't. Let me guess, I'm unhinged. I'm full of hate, right? You guys want to overthrow the system, the government. You want to take down the American government, and you're not going to explain to me.
I don't want to take down the American government. Government doesn't exist. Authority doesn't exist. All you have to do is stop believing. You know, Journey tells you don't stop believing. In regard to government, stop believing. Stop believing somebody can control you against your will and it's perfectly fine. Stop believing that somebody can, or a group of people can steal from you and it's perfectly fine. Theft is either right or it's wrong. What is it? Which one is it? If it's wrong, then we don't go for the wrong because it wouldn't be right.
Why? Or what you have planned after? There's demolition and there's construction. If you do demolition without a proposed construction, you're full of shit.
There is no demolition required because government doesn't exist. It never has existed. It doesn't exist now, and it never will exist. All people have to do is come to their senses. Oh, I don't need somebody ruling over me and wasting trillions of dollars every year and failing and keeping the constraints of their own budget. They're constantly raising the debt ceiling. Why? Because they're constantly wasting more and more money, which means the government is constantly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The government is bigger today than it has ever been. The military-industrial complex is richer now than it has ever been. The surveillance apparatus is more widespread now than it's ever been. And you're going to tell me there's less tyranny? They can track your vehicle and turn it off. Could you do that in the 1950s? Nope. Gomer Pyle had to get behind the wheel of a car, or Boss Hogg, and they had to chase you down the street. Now all they got to do is put a helicopter or a drone in the air and shoot this tag onto your car and then just follow you wherever you are. There's less governmental control today than there was in the 1950s.
All right, there's two types of competition in this world. There's productive competition and there's destructive competition. One way to compete is I will have a better podcast than you. I will be funnier than you. I will learn better piano than you. I will grow more food than you. I will have more children than you, blah, 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 right? That's productive. Destructive is I will stop you from being able to do what you do. Therefore, I win with an inferior product. And that's what you see out of anarcho-capitalists. Oh,
that is government. It's not anarchism. Let's listen to that again.
Destructive is, I will stop you from being able to do what you do. Therefore, I win with an inferior product. And
that is government. I'm going to stop you from doing what you do. And I'm going to come up with the public fool system, the 16,000 hour public indoctrination system. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to lay property taxes on you and increase your property taxes every year, and you won't be able to negotiate. You'll have no say in the matter. There will be no recourse for you. It is going to be done, and if you fail to pay it, because you homeschool your kids, you don't even put your kids in public school, so you don't even utilize that service. If you refuse to pay it, we're just going to take your house. He just described government and applied their actions to an anarcho-capitalist who just wants to be left alone and doesn't believe that he has a higher claim over the life and property of anybody.
That's what you see out of anarcho-capitalists. Oh, I want to take down the banks. I want to take down the government. I want to take down the Federal Reserve. Why? What do you propose will take its place? Haven't even thought about that. Oh, people will just figure it out. We'll all just sing Kumbaya and jerk each other off.
Prior to 1912, we had roads. We had schools, we had bridges, we had clean running water, we had a healthcare infrastructure. Prior to 1912, why do I say 1912? Because prior to the Federal Reserve, we had all that stuff. People were more free. Gold was $20-something an ounce. Now, what's gold? $2,000 an ounce. Why is that? Is it because the value of gold increased, or the monetary system that's compared to that gold has lost value? And by the way, gold is not just $2,000 an ounce relative to the fiat currency Ponzi scheme that we call the American dollar. It's way more than that. The reason gold and silver and platinum and all the precious metals are the price they are is because of paper trading and ETF suppression. Exchange traded funds and paper trading have diluted the supply of physical gold and silver and all the other precious metals. And when people realize what's actually going on, the real price relative to the US dollar is going to go ballistic. And there's nothing anybody will be able to do to stop it. When the musical chairs of the fiat currency Ponzi scheme is up, it's gone. So if you've got gold, you literally have a gold mine. If you have gold in your ring, or you have silver, jewelry or whatever, it's going to go like crazy because the price of gold and silver is artificially suppressed to give the illusion that the dollar is actually still worth something. And the only reason that we can do that to the dollar is for two reasons. It's because it's still connected in some way, shape, or form to petroleum, and it's definitely connected to the U.S. military-industrial complex. Oh, you say the dollar's not worth something? Oh, Saddam Hussein, you're going to go off the dollar and use the euro? We're going to march in. We're going to put you back on the dollar. Oh, Gaddafi, you want to create a gold-based dinar and have your own little economic system going? Well, we'll see about that, buddy. And then place them back on the dollar. Because when people stop using the dollar and all those hens come home to roost, we're going to experience hyperinflation like you've never seen before. And, you freak out about $4 or $5 a gallon milk or $4 a loaf of bread. Wait till you get $100, $200, $500 loaves of bread. That's what's going to happen. There's only this perceived value based on governmental and Federal Reserve manipulation of the dollar. That's the only reason it's worth something, because everybody perceives that it's worth something because the force of the military-industrial complex is making you see that as valuable. It's all manipulation. It's all a hall of mirrors. It's let's gather as many clowns as we can under the big top because this thing is getting crazy.
And I'm right. You can call me names all you want. It doesn't work on me. This whole
I have never called Owen Benjamin a name except to say that what he espouses is dangerous. And he keeps telling me that I'm saying that he's dangerous. Well, maybe by extension he is, but I can prove it. This is The way he's talking here is lunacy. Am I calling him a lunatic? You know, if the shoe fits, wear it, but I'm not the one that engaged in any ad hominems. He's the one that called me the P word. He's the one that called me a moron. He's the one that said I've got no, diminishing mental capacity or whatever it was he said. You are not right. Because doing that which is wrong, i.e. believing that people have the right to control other people, is wrong.
Sympathy, compassion, trolling.
So he just goes on to this diatribe. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and end this, but I do want to just reiterate, there will be this discussion, that people like to call a debate on January 27th, this Saturday, January 27th with Owen Benjamin. It's going to be on my Rumble channel. I don't use this channel. As a matter of fact, the last time I uploaded a video was 2 or 3 months ago. It was this one right here. But we will be going live on the Rumble channel at 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to be a part of that, what I'll do is I will leave the link to my Rumble channel in the description and the pinned comment for you. I would like you to be there because, we're going to have comments on the sidebar. I'll try to have all that stuff up on the screen. My goal in having this discussion or any discussion is how can we carve out more freedoms for our sons and daughters and grandchildren? How can we push back the tides of tyranny? How can we educate people and give them the knowledge that's going to give them the power to press on in the next generation without being fleeced? Like we're all being fleeced. We're all slaves. We're all slaves. And to claim that you're not a slave is to be highly ignorant of what's actually going on. We are at the mercy of people who believe that they have authority over us. And the reason they believe that is because a whole lot of other people believe that as well. They actually believe you're committing a crime if you attempt to keep 100% of everything you earn. Imagine that. That's the state of our world today. That is the crazy mental state of most of the people in our society. But if we can break through that barrier and get people to think in common sense, moral terms, we can actually make some headway for freedom. I am not suggesting the overthrow of anything because there's nothing to be overthrown except for our limited mental capacity and the deception that we've all been immersed in and trained in and indoctrinated in. Just like Amschel Rothschild said, give me control over a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. And guess what? The politicians gave control over the nation's money to a bunch of nefarious international bankers who now control the value of our time and labor. I'll leave that link in the description and in the pinned comment. I would really appreciate it if you guys could carve out some time and be there. I'm planning on it for being no more than an hour and a half, but it could go longer. I'm willing to stay for as long as is necessary, but I also want to keep it short enough to where, when people want to look at it, it's not a 50-hour video. All right, guys, leave your thoughts about this. I really want to know, does anybody have a legitimate right to control you or speak into your life or take 1 second of your time or take 1 penny from your pocket? If you think they do, please make a case for it. If they don't, then there's no such thing as authority. There's no such thing as government. There's no such thing as the right to rule. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button right now before you leave. Hit the like button and share this video with everybody you know if you think the content is valuable, because this is the core of what is wrong with not just America, but the world. And if we can solve this mental deficiency, this mental retardation that we have going on, we can really, really do some great things as far as peace and prosperity and just general goodwill. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.